I got Brian Stahl, Chancey Pogue. We're down here at TTPOA, which is the Texas Tactical Police Officers Association Conference. We're in Round Rock, Texas. It's a little bit east of Austin, right? I got the direction right?
North.
North, okay.
North,
So I had it almost all right.
It's close. It's close to Austin.
Yeah, it's real close. That's where I flew into. I know you guys probably made a bit of a drive. We'll talk a little bit about kind of your past and kind of where you're coming from. But I'm stoked to sit down with you guys for a couple of reasons. One, I had the opportunity to go through a basic SWAT school in Region 7 last March. So when we're recording this, it's a couple months ago now. And part of that obviously should be obvious, is a firearms range day where we're out with pistols and carbines. We had about 6.5, 7 hours. Yep. I think we blew through probably about 800 rounds.
Yeah, between the two.
Between the two. It was a busy day. It was awesome. And we had Chancey and Jamie out there on that day. And today we have Brian. So I didn't actually get a chance to train with you. But, you know, when I showed up, if you're showing up to one of those things and you're being invited to do that, you're getting the stamp of approval. So there wasn't like me walking in, there wasn't any hesitation to do any of that or any weird expectations. But I got to say, it proved beyond my expectation in terms of the quality of instruction, the amount of stuff that was able to be pushed into the limited amount of time that we had with the group that we had. I want to say there was probably close to 30. I
think there was 34, 35 guys.
Yeah. So you can always tell when an instructor's done that before, and you can tell when they haven't done it before. But the instruction and the quality of information that we're trying to get across to a group of individuals that obviously had some stuff under their belt, some more than others, there's always a spectrum. I've been through enough things now to kind of get it. Good coaches kind of recognize good coaches while I come from a different place. I really enjoyed my time out there. So we had planned on trying to get together while we were there.
Right.
I didn't realize how tight that itinerary was and where you were geographically. And so it got pushed to now. So super grateful to have you guys here. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Happy to be here, man. It's humbling to be asked to do this, and we're stoked about it. It's great.
I am too. So we had time last night. I got to know Brian quite a bit more, and you know, I downloaded a lot of information. We've talked a lot, so this will be an easy conversation. But I have a lot to discuss with you guys. So we're going to go a few different directions. Some of it's going to be about leadership. Some of it's going to be about I think grit, and a lot of it's going to be about sort of how do we change the culture of firearms training inside the institution of policing. What are the things that need to happen there? You guys are doing that at your agency, and I'll have you talk a little bit about what you're doing. We'll kind of spitball that and pass that around a little bit. But we're gonna go a couple different directions. So anybody listening to this, just understand, we got a lot to cover, and it's not going to be all on one thing. There's going to be a lot of things, and I think people can take quite a bit away from this, and I hope that they do. So we're going to kick it off with you, Brian. Just a little bio, kind of a little bit of background, just kind of catch people up with who you are, and we'll jump into Chancey next.
Yeah, sounds good. So I've been an officer for 20 years now. Started my career at a different agency, did a little over 10 years there. Some undercover narcotics work, was on the SWAT team there. Came over to the agency that I'm currently at now. Been there for 10 years, been at the range full time as a firearms instructor for 8 years now. Trying to get this progressive firearms training ball rolling for the last 8 years. Started Reddison's group back in 2019.
Okay.
We started doing something besides training. Chancey and I started teaching together outside of where we work. And so we transitioned into a training company. And we've been traveling all over the country, putting on classes and trying to just make cops better.
Yep. Some of the stuff I picked up last night too is, you know, when we talk about people's dedication to training, but also dedication to the job, which I think is going to come up here. One of the things I learned about you is just the lineage you have in law enforcement, the lineage that precedes you. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I've had family members that were in law enforcement, growing up, firefighters, law enforcement, military. I didn't plan on coming down this road when I was younger. Grew up playing football and basketball and baseball and all the things, and played a little bit of college football, had a bad knee injury, tried to get back into that game, realized pretty quick I was not the same person.
Same dude.
And so do the coaches,
Weird.
And so I just started applying at a couple of different police departments and found the passion for it as soon as I stepped into it and knew it was going to be a career. I was going to make a career out of it, which is, you can't say the same thing about some people nowadays. I'm sure we'll talk about that.
That's
in a little
why.
bit,
That's why I asked. Yeah.
Yeah, it's different, man. It's you have to love it. You have to want to help people. You have to want to better yourself. You want to have to better your community. Be open and willing to help people and listen to people and solve problems. And I think that's something that's different now than when I came through and when Chancey came through a little bit before me. But we're trying to keep that train on the tracks with the people that we're teaching and, keep it moving in that direction so it doesn't completely fall off.
Yeah, a little different approach.
A little different.
Some of the other things that come up for me, I know there's some similarities there. Chance will get a chance to talk here in a sec, but just like the background of athletics, right? And the team, environment, also the struggle, right? The being injured,
It's
having
true.
something taken away from you.
Absolutely.
That you love, and also, being in a position where you have to make some decisions about what the next thing is gonna be, and you're being able to take that with you right forward. And how do those lessons get applied, as you move on?
Yeah, I mean, I think being a part of a team is obviously growing up, learning how to work with others, not always put yourself first. You got to put the team first. Growing up in a team environment and playing football at a high level in high school and then college is no different than having a tight-knit team on the streets, SWAT team. We talked a little bit about that last night, how I think that the newer generation, the camaraderie isn't there. And it may be, attributed to the fact that there's not many kids playing as many sports as when we were growing up.
That's why I brought it up. Yeah.
I think, especially now that sports aren't as important to kids as video games are or whatever else they're doing nowadays.
They're kind of disconnected. I don't think this is important for parents either, and so
Right.
So when we talk about like the generational gaps and the things that exist there, those are real things, but this is part of it. And I don't want to make it all about that, but it has changed. We're seeing that the longevity of an officer has been shorter, right? I know you guys have, in your careers, have seen, that timeline shortened significantly. Got some generational knowledge that's moved out, right? But based on many different factors, and trying to instill what that actually is. I think if you've been a member of a team before and you've struggled, you've suffered, you've won, you've lost, you've done the hard work, to get to the game, and whatever the result of that was, it was. But if you've never been through that before, like, you don't know what you're even looking for, and it might feel really weird as an adult. Right. Again, let me use that term broadly, but coming into it and trying to understand what that is, while some of those folks you might be surrounded by truly do and have expectations of you, but don't understand that you don't understand, right? And you don't understand it, and so there's some friction there. But anyway, I wanted to bring that up because when I talked to most of the guys and gals I talk to that are in this environment that are higher achievers that do the job and have done it well and been rewarded for that and had success, had that experience early on. Right. And when you don't get it, it's a tough place to land.
It is. And law enforcement, it has to be a team. You got to understand that you're not going to always get along with all the teammates and you're not going to like them, but you have to be pulling on the same end of the rope as a team, as an organization, as a department, whatever the case may be. And so many times nowadays we see that law enforcement's a stopgap, basically, for
it's like
people.
It's a stop along the way. Like, I'm going to try this out for a while.
Because
a career.
Yeah, we ask people when we have recruits come in and you ask them, the question, why did you want to become a police officer? And we'll have some that are like, my dad was a cop, my brother's a cop, my grandfather, and we literally have others, and they're like, y'all are hiring. I don't know, like it sounds cool, and then they realize really quick that it's not like TV and it's not.
Cinema,
what it's all cracked up to be. And then they're gone within, 10, 12, 15, 18, 20 months. And it's a bit of a problem.
It puts a strain on the entire ecosystem for sure. So speaking of team, obviously you guys have been a team for quite some time, both in the private sector, I'll call that, just in the business that you're running together, but also in the department of the agency. And I think that people will get that as we talk about this. You guys could probably finish one another's sentences, although you don't do that. You can,
right?
Because you know what the other one's gonna say. So there's a trust built there,
right?
There's a strong relationship built there. So anyway, moving over to that, Chancey Pogue. Again, man, you can start and stop wherever you finish, just about yourself. Might be weird for you. I know you're not that type of a dude, but
I'm the son of a butcher from a little town north of Abilene. My dad ran a custom butcher shop for 40 years, and my first job was salting beef hides in a hide cellar in July and August for $2.50 an hour. So, and I wouldn't trade that. I absolutely wouldn't, because growing up, I had a support system that was great. Parents are still out there, and that's home. It's small town Texas, and the people there, man, they're great. And I love it, and I miss that part of it. I get to play big city cop, so it's like a dream come true in that regard. But grew up with that, with all the sports, hunting, fishing, with a great support system there, and did the whole college ball thing. Went to play baseball. That was my love. Played every down of football that I could, but baseball was my love. Did that for a year. Ended up down in Huntsville, Texas. Left Tarleton, was playing ball. Wasn't for me. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't ready for it mentally. With all of that, work your butt off at it, and then what's the reward side of that? A 6-day-a-week job, and I'm trying to make it on $60 a week. Well, it's pretty tough, So it's time to go to work. The reality of that, and went down there to Huntsville, and went to work in the prison system down there.
All right,
going to Sam Houston, and it was pretty eye opening at 19. So did that for 4 years. We could go on for hours.
We'll talk about it. Just give us kind of like a little overview of what that experience was like for you.
It was, you walk into a place like that, and the unit I worked at was a Line 3, Level 3 unit. It was a Supermax prison, first one technically built in Texas then, and we're talking in '98, and walked in that place, and it was extremely eye opening to see just the conditions. And how people are living in that place, the inmates, and why they're there. And it's a crash course in the underbelly of society. It really is. You're just thrown into it. I had people that raised me on the farm. That's kind of some prison term stuff there, but that helped me immensely. Just on how to deal, how to deal with people, and how to take care of the people that are with you, that are on your team, because you're all you got. And whenever you're in there and you get yourself in some pickles in that place. It gets pretty wild. It gets pretty wild. There's stuff that you can't unsee what you see in that place, and it's nuts. But anyhow, I digress from that. It was a hell of an experience. I think it was very, very beneficial coming to work in the police department.
How so? What skills?
The people skill side of it, because you have to deal with guys that are extremely agitated, that are, you talk about mad at the world. There is nothing they won't do.
Just because?
Just because, yeah. I had a guy try to run a 21-inch homemade shank in me. By the grace of God, get out of the way. Buddy saw it. I heard it happening when he opened up a bean chute. He had rigged it behind me, and he pulled it open, and I turned and looked. We were going to move an inmate. I had my back to that side of it, and needless to say, talking about, not to go down the tangent of leadership, but this leads to a big thing with me that impacted me big time when I was young. He knocked the bean chute open. Guy that I was working with said, like, watch out kind of deal. And I turned and looked, and he was swinging that shank at me through the chute. And I got out of the way, thank God. And, Buddy comes over there trying to hammer the bean chute closed. We do. And so I had to notify supervisor. I had plenty to say to the guy. I was asking the picket boss to roll the door, because I was enraged. This guy, he tried to stab me, and it's the right move. Right. Looking back, it's not. And anyway, the guy, the officer in the picket booth was like, I go out and I tell the supervisor. He was last I knew, he was a lieutenant out there, and he walks down the level 1 hallway. I'd walked out in the hallway, and with him walks the captain. And I told him what happened. We go back down there to that cell, and they asked the guy, do you have a shank? And he said, yeah, we have a shank. And he says, well, put it on the bean chute. Go lay on your bunk, and he does. And he opens up the bean chute, this captain does, takes the tool that I'm carrying to do it, and hands me that shank and says, write him up. And I can't tell you how much of a failure that is from that son of a bitch. I mean, that's just how I really feel, you know? And they just left the inmate be.
That's it.
Yeah. And I remember that. You know, I had to go back to court.
Moral injury number one.
Man, yeah, I was like, okay, that's what I'm not going to do.
Right.
And anyway, that being said, not the war story about that, but wrote the guy up, and I ended up, when I was in the police academy, I had to go back for his trial to Walker County. And I went back, and they gave him, you know, possession of a weapon inside a penal institution, and plus, you know, ag assault deadly weapon, essentially, you know, on me, on a correctional officer. And they gave him 40 years. Not, you know, they can run it concurrent, but they didn't. They stacked it on his sentence. I mean, he'd never see the light of day for what he was in there for. And he told everybody, he said, they asked him if he had anything to say in court. It's the first time I was ever in a court setting like that. And he told him, he said, his exact words, he said, y'all a bunch of hoes if you don't give me life.
Wow. Just like that.
And I'm like, that solidifies things to you, you know, about some people, you know, I mean, that's that guy's choice. He's the one that chose that path. And came back in police academy, you know, so I mean, fast forward, starting my career with the PD and did patrol. We had like directive response or zero tolerance or crime response team. There's different acronyms for it, but worked a couple of those. Was in SWAT for several years as an officer. Use of force coordinator stuff, doing that, dealing with you know, all the use of force for a big city, and that, and then was part of a criminal tracking unit. We got to help stand that stuff up, and then ended up from there. I promoted and came back to SWAT as a supervisor.
Okay.
And spent some time in our air unit, and then currently I'm promoted to lieutenant, and I'm over all of the weapons range and all the reality-based training with our department. So
I understand that promotion is sort of recent. So
it is.
Congratulations,
Thank
I think.
Yeah, it's good. I'm blessed beyond measure, man.
You earned it.
Not confused about it. It's I've got a great gig, but I got one where we got to go forward, man. We got to help our people.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about just the helping people and what you guys are trying to do. And I think first, just kind of identifying some of the inherent issues, probably that are systemic. And when I say that, just across the board, there's probably some cultural stuff there. There's obviously some training things there. There's some funding things there. There's all that stuff. But if you could break it down in Chancey's way of doing that, how would you do it?
How to break down those walls. I mean, what we did in this, and this goes down the rabbit holes with it. But I think one of the biggest issues that is across law enforcement from all the training that we've done and gone to multiple classes ourselves and training with lots of different people and getting a lot of time under tension, if you will. Mm-hmm. I mean that in the way of we have a lot of people coming through that we teach, you know, captive audience from our police department, if you will, you know, is the environment that you set. Mm-hmm. That's a huge thing. I think you have to set the stage there, you know, for learning in a non-judgmental factor. We got to be safe, but we've got to get these people in there and get them to where they understand that failure is part of this, and that's how you're going to learn it when it comes down to shooting a gun. You're going to learn from that part of it.
So, I mean, you talk about failure. So for people who might not be picking up what you're putting down, just be specific for where that happens. Where is it acceptable to fail, and what are we talking about specifically?
In the training environment. Okay. And when you're in there on the, quote, square range, where you're learning all of these things, okay, how do I manipulate this gun? How do I put the bullets where I need the bullets to go? Because historically, law enforcement, they beat the drum of you're responsible for every round. Mm-hmm. And what I would argue is, are you really? Technically, yes, you absolutely should be. But what about the law enforcement shootings? And we're no different across the nation where they go 0 for 25.
Right. Yeah, so how did we get there? And so my take on that is, you might want to jump in here, Brian, and that is just with what are we teaching our law enforcement officers, right, from a skill sets perspective, and how are we doing it? And what I see, I think a lot is there's a couple different ways. This is my outside perspective looking in. Right. Agree, disagree, tell me I'm in it, you know, I have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm fine. But it's either a cover your ass type of approach. We tick boxes.
Yes.
And we make sure that we don't wind up with a quote unquote failure to train. And that is a very large set of air quotes. And the other one is teach them the things they need to know to pass the test here. Not the test on the street, not
That's
the test in the job, but the test here today,
That's
like firearms, quote unquote qualification.
That's exactly it. I think for so long we've failed our people in the firearms training side of law enforcement because we have kind of, just practiced the test for the most part. And it's always stand on the 5-yard line or 7-yard line or 10-yard line and shoot little tiny groups. And if you miss, they had the easy button as instructors, and I'm just as guilty of it, right? So everything I'm talking about kind of in a negative way, I'm guilty of doing over my career of teaching firearms. And we would never train our cops the reality of law enforcement shootings. It was always take your time, be slow, be accurate, which in the real world, shootings are over very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. And they're pressing the trigger very, very quickly. And they're making split-second decisions, and they're moving, and they're doing all these things for out in the real world. But for so long in the range, that was taboo. Like, hey, no, we're not going to run around with a gun out. No, we're not going to shoot fast. We need to shoot slow and accurate, which I think is the complete opposite of what we need to be doing.
I don't think it. I think that's the truth, right? I mean, there's nothing to really think about there.
Yeah,
the truth, right? I mean,
we were just as guilty, right? We were, and I think for so long it was, like I said, it's just an easy button for instructors. You put everybody on the same yard line and you give them, on the command shoot, draw and fire 2 rounds. Well, it's super easy to just stand there, and that's not really teaching to me. That's just being a line safety officer at that point. You're not instructing them in any way, and you're not giving them anything that's, beneficial to what they're going to be doing out in the real world.
Yeah. So this relates back to the environmental setup piece. And to me, what that sounds like is it's very sterile. And again, you're teaching to the test, right? Which is what I think everybody can agree, and most people will agree. It's a blanket statement, everybody, but I think most, and I feel pretty confident in saying that the metric for that is very low.
Yes.
Very low.
And that the environment part of that too is, it comes down to the personnel that are teaching. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, with that, you need to be teaching from firsthand experience. And I'm not talking about from officer-involved shootings or anything like that. I'm talking about from firsthand experience with what you were teaching. Okay, with what you're asking somebody to do with the gun.
What you expect in terms of performance.
Sure. Well, your expectations, that's a two-way street. What does the student expect of you? The person that comes in here, the brand new recruit, that maybe has never touched a gun.
Which is a reality.
Very common.
Yeah.
Okay, which I would argue those are the easiest people to teach.
By far.
Because they don't have the preconceived notions. And, my granddaddy taught me when I was 5. Okay. And the teaching from firsthand experience, and not to jump around here, but you find out that with some of the results that you start getting and what you're teaching, how you're getting those results and what you're teaching are not coinciding. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how is this happening? Okay, and then it's kind of like the waters part, and you start seeing that there's a whole nother thing out there. There's levels to this stuff, right? And I know you've talked to a lot of guys that are extremely accomplished at this. There's a reason why they're that accomplished.
Right. So when you talk about the firsthand experience, what are you talking about? Like, what's your expectation?
On a personal level, is to go out there and to push constantly with this thing, to garner everything I can from it. What's possible with this? Mm-hmm. What is possible? How much can we squeeze out of it? Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know that there's a person on the planet that's got all the juice for the squeeze.
They're trying, right?
Sure. Because what's possible when you see people do certain things with a gun, they have an immense amount of speed and an immense amount of accuracy, and they're consistent. There's lots of one-trick ponies out there, okay? The guy or gal that's very, very consistent at it, that can do it consistently on demand, that is, extremely beneficial as far as just the skill of shooting and how you apply it. It's neither here nor there. Like, come on, guys, you can put it to whatever SOPs you have, whatever your TTPs or SOPs with your unit or anything with the police department. What you got to have is that ability to be able to do it and to teach people to be a rounded shooter, not to go in there and shoot their 50 rounds once a year.
Right.
And to want to learn it.
Want it, yep.
Well, that's environmental to me. People need to be engaged, and to teach somebody a practical and progressive way to shoot the gun and to be good at it, to show them that they can be, that it is possible, takes a hell of a lot more work than being the teacher Charlie Brown, just reading.
And just to touch on what Chancey's kind of talking about, you will never see us, whether it's in the private sector, even where, our day job kind of thing, I guess, we don't ever have a script. We don't have drill sheets. We don't teach to a script. We don't read, all shooters do this and this and this. Like
I've heard and seen it.
Yeah. And we're huge on demos. We demo things the right way. We demo the most common mistakes we see people make. And then we will show them, some higher expectation stuff.
So they know it when they see it, right? Now it's like,
exactly.
oh, that's where we're going to.
Right. That's exactly why we do that. And we teach to the class. We don't teach to a script. And not one of our classes are identical. Not one. And it's because we have different students in every class. We have a whole plethora of things that we can do and everything that and drills that we've documented, obviously, that we can pluck from and plug and play depending on what's most beneficial for this group of students. In front of you. Yeah. Right? Because this group of students may be significantly more advanced than the previous ones. Yeah. And you're teaching them what you taught the previous group. Well, you've lost this class. I mean, I'm sure you've been to plenty of training where you're standing on the range and you're like,
yeah, we're teaching to the lowest common denominator, or we're leaving, a good portion of the class behind.
Right, and we don't do that. If we see somebody struggling, we will go with them one-on-one, or we will take them into a small group or something and pull them up to us.
Yeah, not punish them.
Not punish them.
Ignore them.
Right, and not ignore them. Not like just go sit over there and I'm not going to care about what you do, but we're going to keep the class rolling. We're going to pull them up to where we need to be.
Yeah, that takes patience, right? It also takes an understanding of how to get that person up to speed with whatever they're showing you their ability is or isn't.
And it's an instructorship thing, because if we go out there and to Brian's, what Brian mentions right there is we're going to cover foundationally all the things in each class, but we've made different drills, different things that we may run. When you come across someone, if let's say we've got 20 guys, okay, there's 2 of us out there, so one of us is working up and down the line, one of us is calling, and there's a lot of interaction in it. We're big on that. And so one person's having trouble with whatever it is. Okay, right. Being able to go up there and understand how to relate and get between that person's ears to get their brain, to get them to focus on a specific thing, and being able to say it in more ways than one,
right? So
that somebody can understand it instead of, and I use this one forever, like, okay, stop jerking the trigger. How many guys are told that the problem is you're jerking the trigger? Mm-hmm. When most that use that, I would argue, this will piss some people off. Most of the people that say that the shooter's problem is jerking the trigger don't know what the hell they're talking about. Right.
Red flag.
That's the easy answer. That's the freaking push the button.
That's the script.
Yes,
right, yeah.
That's what we're talking
about. That's the answers to the test.
You've got to have some people skills. There has to be instructorship with this. It's not, I showed up and I wear a shirt with something, it's got weapons range on it, or like the old, running thing about being a red shirt.
Right.
You can't go in it with that mentality. You got to work on you. You got to do those things. You've got to develop that instructorship to be able to get through to people so that they can relate, and they come into an environment where, yes, they're held to an expectation, but they don't feel like they're being judged and belittled and people talking shit to them or talking about them whenever they're there. That's a cultural thing. That's an inside the walls thing that we have to, if we're going to build these people up, you have to be objective instead of subjective. And so many times people get subjective about shooting. This is an objective thing. Either you can or you can't.
Right.
And what the cops, they hate to fail, man.
Right.
We could go on for hours.
Yeah,
about
there's consequences, right, to that.
Well, there always has been traditionally, right? So for so long in training, you weren't allowed to fail, right? Like you were, like Chancey just said, you'd have the instructors talk shit to you or about you or belittle you or hit the easy button and just give you some scripted excuse as to why the rounds didn't go where you wanted them to go or whatever the case may be, right? And we're big on telling our class, like, we want you to fail. Like, not the whole class, obviously, but we want you to push yourself beyond your comfort zone in every drill we do. Push yourself to failure, because that's when we start drawing things out of you, and we can correct things. Because if you just let them stand there on the 5-yard line and
trying to be perfect
and slow fire for 20 minutes, well, what are you really getting out of that? You're not getting anything out of that. You're just turning bullets into brass at that point. So we literally sometimes like you want to yell at them, like, go, like, push yourself to failure, kid. Come on.
I'd really rather have to throttle somebody back than figure out how to push the button for them. You
can pull the reins back on people very, very easily, get them to speed up as hard.
Yes.
And every now and then there's some that come through, like with recruit classes, and some guys and gals just get it. Like they've got a knack for it. Mm-hmm. Like you see somebody that's just naturally very athletic in some sport, or there's some people that are just naturally, they get it when it comes down to shooting.
Yeah, that's the truth. That is the truth.
Hand-eye coordination, they're intrinsically motivated, which hopefully that's what you get. They're there because they have to be as part of their job.
Right.
Well, that's another thing that you have to manage.
Right.
Are they there on their own free will and accord? Most people love it. I want the environment whenever they come down to be, man, we're glad to be here. Like, we're having fun here. We're doing this because if their attitude's good and the environment is right, learning's going to occur. Not, man, I'm being berated.
So
in and out.
Yeah, when you talk about expectations, the expectation is we expect you to fail and we want you to fail.
Right.
But what else? What are some of those other expectations that you kind of lay out there at the beginning? What do you want to expect from the student, and what do you want the student to expect from you?
Yeah, that is definitely a two-way street. Mm-hmm. Definitely a two-way street. I expect them to apply the concepts and everything that we teach, whenever we do this, I want you to immerse yourself in this while you're here. And I also expect if we're out there and anybody that's around in the environment that's providing the training, to give them the effort.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't take the time, you better make the time. Mm-hmm. You with me for that interaction, because we're imprinting on these people before they go out there on the street. And the idea is for them to come back and train and maintain a hopefully stellar level of skill, okay, going forward through a career that's hopefully, fruitful and long and everything's great. And the maintenance game, we want that. We want the maintenance side of it. If they're not happy with the interaction with the people down there, and I don't mean taking a bunch of crap or anything, as far as attitudes go, because we got a bunch of crusty cops, everybody does, you don't take that. But make them feel welcome, I guess, at the end of the day, because it's a customer service business. Let's be real. Mm-hmm. It is. And if they are, then they're more apt to come back. They're more apt to ask for help.
Yeah, and if they're not doing that, you got to look internally to ask yourself why.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. Here's a side question about expectations. New position, things you've been doing notwithstanding. Let's take it back 2 years.
Yeah.
What do you think expectations are of administration of that position as a firearms instructor? And this is a blanket. I'm not asking you to maybe I'm asking you to maybe generalize based on your experiences in your own agency, but with your experience with other instructors, other agencies, other administration.
I think it's changed over the years. For a long time, I think firearms in general and the administration just expects you to get them to the point to where they can pass
the test,
to check the box, and they can move on with their training or whatever. And that's slowly changing, which is a good thing. We have our administration that's behind us big time right now and pushing, us to continue to do what we're doing and provide the training and the
more of a progressive approach.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right. And albeit when we get a recruit class, yes, they have to pass the qual. They have to meet the minimum standard, but that's not all they expect from us anymore. So the expectation there is rising. And I think that's largely to do with the fact that we have an administration that was willing to come down and see what we want to do. We had a captive audience with the stars and the bars and everybody, and we put them through it. We told them we're not going to pull punches. We're going to teach you guys what we're teaching the street cops, and they were all about it. And after that, they're like, yes, like, come on, let's go.
And how we tie that together with them is framing it, because everybody says, well, you don't have context. Context is a big word, with stuff, right? Well, to frame it in air quotes here, context, to them was like, I posed questions. I said, okay, at the end of the day, are officer-involved shootings that you're reviewing that are happening in this police department, are they happening quickly? And they're like, well, yes, obviously they are. That's okay. I said, are they dynamic in nature? Yes. I said, okay. I said, well, doesn't it stand to reason that we should be training that way? That's putting it in a way that it's kind of hard to deny that.
Right.
I mean, when you look across the board. So we get them to, I'm going to say admit that, but to agree that, yes, that this is an objective thing that we're looking at in that regard, and then put them through that same training. And they fail.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do as well
as they thought they were.
They're not
the person they thought they were, right?
Yeah, they're finding out, oh, wait a minute. I need to do more here. There are things that are happening because of stress or whatever, just in that environment. Well, what is that like to the officer on the street?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's no real stress with the paper target sitting there. But if I tell you to do it quickly with an acceptable level of accuracy, not this, how about this? Okay. If I tell you to do it quickly, and now you realize that you can much faster than you ever thought you could prior to, giving yourself the permission to fail in this environment. Okay, it's eye-opening. So now what do we have? We have buy-in.
Buy-in, yeah.
And that's going, giving them kind of the sandpaper approach. Well, look, this is what your cops are having to face. And they agree to that. And I said, okay, well, then how do we implement this? And we tell them, we're going to do it. We'll go forward. We will be the ones out front.
Trust me.
Yes.
Yeah. You're asking for trust.
Right. Hey, give me a damn chance, man.
Yeah.
We're going to change the culture. We're going to change the culture. So how people approach it.
So I wonder, same question, different angle. Like, what do you think the expectations of the trainees or the participants coming through are of you? What do you think they are when they get there, right? Versus what they learn while they're there?
I think they expect you to be professional.
Yep.
They expect you to be good at what you're teaching them.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
There's a requisite level of skill that's needed, okay, to be able to do this, because anybody can sit up there and be a mouthpiece, but you have to be able to show them. Okay, you better be able to do it and do it well.
You have to show them that you care too, and you have to be engaged with them.
Yeah, I believe that.
I think there's there's been so many times where you have instructors that look like they don't care. They're just like there, and they're not engaging, and they're not trying to help as best as they
They're just trying to get through it.
Right. They're like, listen, I got
a curriculum here.
I got to read this script. I got to get these 10 dudes qualified at the end of the day. Then I can go do whatever, and I think that is the complete wrong way of approaching it. And I think students can pick that out like that. Like it ain't hard. It's really easy to lose a class when you're not engaged, and they feel like you don't care truly about what they're doing.
So if you get like an academy class that comes through, how long do they get with you? Just like many days?
Initially, it's a week. Mm-hmm. Okay, right out the gate, they get a week. And then they'll come back on down through the academy for a couple more weeks. And that's so basically we're tasked with getting them to pass and I hate to say it this way, but they have to pass the basic TCO qual.
Sure, I got it.
Mandated by the state. We get them through that. And then they go on to do other things in the academy, and then they come back. Now, actual time shooting a handgun, okay, about 2.5 days is what we have with them before we qual. Okay?
Because the rest of it is going through
other weapon systems, different things that are mandated by the state. So that's how much time we have them actually out there on the range. And we keep numbers with this. We keep a tally of how everything's going with it. And we have them shoot different things along the way. Mm-hmm. There's no staging the qual, but we're working on, and that's our thing, is building a shooter to where now whatever problem you give them that the gun solves out there in that environment, they can handle it.
Mm-hmm. I.e. the qual.
Yes.
Yeah, I got you.
Yes.
So like on day 2 with our recruits, they're moving and shooting.
Okay.
Our qual has nothing to do with movement. There's no movement involved.
So you are going to get them to do the test and pass the test, but there are many things that you can put in there outside of what TCOL tells you have to do.
Absolutely.
This is the curriculum. This is what needs to be taught. Some of that could be taught in 5 minutes, doesn't it?
Sure.
Take 5 hours to do that.
Sure.
Okay, we got through that. Now let's give you some practical skills here to build on the thing, which then obviously apply back. We're talking about fundamental skills, but also challenging them a little bit, putting in some intensity modifiers, if you want to call it that, so that you're giving them an opportunity to push through something and fail at something and realize their mistakes, see what other people are doing, and whatnot.
We had a run there. We recently restructured our qual. We change it up every couple years, right? And so we recently restructured it. But before we did that, the older way of teaching, we would have several times, if not every class, we would have somebody get to the point to where they're on their last attempt to qual as a recruit, right? And then once Chancey and I started restructuring it about 2 years ago, completely revamped it to this new practical, progressive style of shooting and teaching. We literally went 3 or 4 classes, and they shoot a total of, 9 or 12 different qualifications. And we had 0 failures. Not one person.
Everybody passed on the first time.
Not one person failed. And you go from the old way of basically practicing the qual to the new way of
let's teach them some skills.
Let's teach them some skills,
and the qual will be there.
And the problem,
by default,
right?
The qual now at the end of the day or the end of the week is the problem they have to solve. And when they're standing there on the line static, and the target turns, and they have 6 seconds to draw and fire 4 rounds, they're like, are you kidding me?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, what?
This is where I was going with this. And then what that does is, again, you said you have 5 days, right? Which is really like 2.5 on the range.
Yeah.
With the pistol.
If you mess that up on day 1, even with the lecture series, right? The death by PowerPoint, if you will, or whatever. By the time you get to day 3, when you're actually out on the range, or day 2.5, however that falls into the schedule, you're already trying to climb yourself out of a hole.
Yep.
Right. And it's tough to sit there and listen to the lecture with all the other information that they're giving and getting. They got to go through the necessary stuff to be ready to be out there. There's safety stuff that's included there, and a certain knowledge base. Again, you got a spectrum of people in there that know stuff versus not know stuff. But when you get out there on the range, that's really an opportunity to kind of bring them back, right, and put it all into practice. And they're so important to set the tone basically the right way, so that now you only have 2.5 days. You want them to want to come back, to be excited to come back for that 2-week section whenever they end up coming back through.
The engagement side of it.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yes, is whenever they're there, they need to be, their mind needs to be tuned free of everything else. Yeah. Yes, let's be locked on and let's do this. And you mentioned, like mistakes, okay, or where something falls apart. Just a second ago, you brought that up. Well, that's the big thing that we start pushing to them from the word go. I mean, right out the gate, is that whenever negative things happen, whenever you're shooting, okay, it's only seeing and feeling. That's it. That's those 2 things. Okay, and we teach it very, very simplistic. It's 2 + 2. Every class I say that this is 2 + 2 stuff, but cops try to make it 5. For some damn reason, that's what we do. We'll try to take something very simple, make it complicated.
Like the draw stroke.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah, come on.
Yeah.
We'll spend an hour going through the draw stroke, but just get the gun up in front of you, and we'll work through it backwards.
Yeah, exactly. Like, let's get, put your hands on the gun, hold it out in front of you, and shoot the pistol. We've got to get you to where you can shoot the gun before we ever talk about where it's carried and getting it to that point.
Right.
When we start there.
Right.
The 3rd or 4th thing we do is start working on the draw.
Which is not how it's been traditionally.
Correct.
Much of the time.
Which is my point. And again, I'm only saying that, which is super obvious to you guys, but for people listening that just came through this, it's very possible that they spent an hour going through the draw before they ever fired a round.
Right.
We can fine tune people as far as draw stroke and what we need to do as they're repping through this.
That's my point. You're stacking things.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You're stacking things that don't need to be overcomplicated.
Right.
And for them to early on, whenever we start the shooting process, that if negative things are happening, okay, you need to be able to see it and feel it. You have to tie your brain to that, to the visual side of it. I mean, we're issuing, dots on pistols. That's it. We need to be focused where we want our bullets to go. So if you see enough, and what that enough is for each individual shooter is independent of that person.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We can describe it 10 different ways, but they have to see it for them because we can't see for them.
And then they'll connect the dots.
Sure. And we can't feel for them because everybody gets way off in the weeds about how you hold the gun. Well, you need to make contact with the thing, and how tight you hold it is dependent of you. Like, your hands are strong. You've been lifting weights for 40 plus years, right? Okay, well, we have somebody that comes in here that doesn't have hands as strong as Scott's. Well, that doesn't mean they can't do it. You can do it. Absolutely, you can. Where you put the pressure and how much pressure you have to use
is going to be different.
Is going to be different.
Right.
There's no hard, fast rules with this, but foundationally, we have to have these certain things together and to get their brain tied to that early. If you can hold the gun very consistently, you can put the gun in front of your face, and whenever it's in front of your face, in your line of sight, you can see the red thing.
Right.
Okay, and you put that red thing wherever you want the bullets to go, and you pull that little hangy down thing back, and it makes noise and jumps in your hands. That's what shooting is. That is it. Like, let's not make this trigonometry, man. It's 2 + 2.
And I think that going back to the expectations that we talked about a minute ago, with what Chancey was just saying, giving the students the skills and, getting them to the point where they can understand and self-diagnose problems.
Yep. If you don't give them a chance to see the problem, they're never going to know that.
And I think that's what has turned off a lot of law enforcement officers to firearms training in general, because there's really not any continued firearms education. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of cops that they came through the academy and that's all the firearms training they get.
They think they know it all.
They shoot their qual once a year, and then they retire 20 years later, and they've shot 20 quals, and that is not firearms training, right? But what skills or what knowledge did we give them to build upon? And I would argue for the longest time it was none. Mm.
And you were a part of that.
I was 100% a part of that.
Man.
I'm guilty. Like I said, everything I'm saying, I'm guilty of, right? And I'll say I've failed people as an instructor in the before time, but now we want to tie their brain to what's going on and the seeing and feeling, like Chancey was just talking about. That way, when they come back in and they practice, they now have context of what they need to be looking for, or what's causing the bullets not to go where they want the bullets to go. Well, now they have information or knowledge or something that they can relate back to and say, okay, I must be doing this or that, or I'm negatively influencing the gun, or I'm pressing the trigger with my whole hand, or I was looking at the dot, my vision was lazy, or what. Now they have something.
But they have to know what those things are.
Right. We have to give it to them, and we didn't for so long, right? We just basically said, like, stand there and shoot a little group, and all right, let's go shoot the qual and get out of here.
Namaste. Have a good day.
Right.
This is what your sights are supposed to look like.
Right.
Okay, well, everybody equal height, equal light, perfect, everything in the middle, the whole 9 yards.
And how come the bullets aren't going where they're supposed to go?
Yeah, and they don't have the answer to it.
Right.
Until you, and that's the instructorship side of it.
Yeah, they didn't for so long have the answer.
Yeah, and you can show them, you take that individual person and you show them, okay, here's the negative input on the gun. As a right-handed shooter, you ask everybody, okay, if you miss the target, where do you normally miss?
Low left.
Low left. Low left. Which hand's causing that to happen?
It depends.
The overwhelming majority of the time, if you're a right-handed shooter and that's happening, that negative influence is coming from their strong hand.
Right.
So we need to do what? Tie their brain to that hand, the isolation of this finger, make sure that the grip is what it needs to be, and run a series of drills to where we bait them into the negative influence on the gun.
Making the mistake. Right?
So that they can feel it. Mm-hmm. Tie the brain to the feeling side of it. Tie the brain to the visual side of it. What did your dot do before it made noise in your hand? Mm-hmm. And then whenever you get a person, and you can do this very, very early to get them to where they can call a shot. When they can call a shot, we know there's a level of understanding going. Now, let's go forward.
But you have to test for that.
Yes. Right. You have to bring that out and let them understand it for them, not just parrot something back to you just so that you can nod your head and go forward.
Yeah.
It's not it.
You heard me.
Right. Yeah. One thing I like to do too is we'll have students, and they're pretty switched on. They're doing fairly well, right? And we're running doubles or bills or whatever drill we're running, and it's a faster paced drill. And they're shooting a nice little, racquetball size group. Mm-hmm. And, it's a very individual thing. Myself or Chancey, we'll walk up and we'll just get behind him and I'll say, go faster. Mm-hmm. Go faster. And I'll tell him again to go faster,
Nothing else.
That's it. Like, and to the point to where this turns into this.
Softball size or volleyball
right?
or basketball.
And then I will literally break the class and tell everybody, come over to this target. I'm like, look at this target. What do you guys think of it? And the dude who just shot it, or the lady that just shot it, they're like
being down on themselves, yeah.
And I'm like,
look at everything I did wrong.
I said,
here.
This target makes my heart so happy. This is cute for Instagram. this is where learning takes place.
Yeah, right.
And I said, did you feel all these shots? Did you feel this one that was way down here? And they're like, oh yeah, that felt horrible.
I pushed it.
Boom. Now we're tying it to it, right? And now we're taking that, what looks like a negative target to the untrained eye, and we're giving the rest of the class permission to push yourself like that.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and I learned that through, there was a few instructors that really stand out for me on that without going through the list, but just the pushing to beyond the comfort level, but then being able to diagnose the target. And again, not making judgment, and this is stupid, but I'm going to do it. It's like standing across the room in the gym watching somebody do an exercise, and you're judging them for however they're doing this movement or this exercise. Now, there may be some things that are glaringly obvious or whatnot. Obviously, like we talked about, a racquetball size to maybe more of a volleyball size or whatever on that target because somebody's pushing it. Obviously, if we're not hitting paper, that's a problem.
Huge problem. Right?
And I'm going to be, well, hold on a second.
Right.
You know, but I'm watching that person. I don't know why that person is doing that. Like yet, I don't know. Hopefully they know as a coach, right? As an owner of a business, I'd be like, I will ask them, hey, what's going on? What, why did you choose to do it that way? And if they have a solid answer, an explanation for me, that's what I want to hear. Like, but I'm not casting judgment on you doing it wrong. There's that, and I think that's it. Is while it is simple in theory, right? There's complexity to this, and there is a spectrum of how to go about getting somebody to realize and understanding if they realize it or not, and where you can add in, because you might not need to say a word. Right. Again, going back to that lady who's got, do you know what you did? Yep, I know exactly. Good, then we can move on then.
Right.
We keep training.
We can keep moving.
Right.
Yeah,
we don't have to stop everything right there.
Right.
They're developing a level of understanding and ability to self-diagnose problems.
Right.
Because we can't be there all the time to tell them what they did wrong. Okay, so if I tell them, if we explain to a shooter, okay, this is what you did wrong, and they can't tie their conscious thought to that thing because it's a physical thing.
They're just nodding and going, yeah, okay, I got it, yeah.
If they can't correlate it between their ears that this is the thing that happened on a personal level, then are we going anywhere? Are we getting any better? Have we gained any ground?
We've just given information.
We're just throwing it out. We're just wasting oxygen.
Not even being received, right?
Yeah. We're just giving information. Yeah, there's nothing there. There's nothing there substantial to take away and to be able to think about and process on your own again. And everybody does that a little bit differently.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. So that took me a long time to figure out in shooting because when you start, you're target focused and you're trying to make that those bullets go exactly where you want, and that becomes your practice. That becomes how you train, right? Because that's how you were taught to train, versus. And over time, I learned the other way, where it's like, no, it's okay to go a little bit outside. It wasn't just put the bullets in this area and then tell me what you felt, right? Like what happened there. And when coaches started doing that with me, and I started recognizing, again, it's like that permission to fail, right? Thing. But almost not. It's not even a permission. It's like I need you to go faster.
I need you to fail
because I'm trying to push you to fail.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I'm not loading 600 pounds on the bar for you to deadlift it off the floor right here. It's not what this is. Like it's just paper down there, man. So just send it and let's see what happens. And giving people the opportunity to send it to see what happens, so that they can then make adjustments to make it happen the way they want it to.
Exactly. To know what that felt like.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this is a seeing. I mean, again, it goes back to, and keep beating that drum. It's seeing and feeling.
Making the connection.
That's all it is. Okay, so they felt what that was like. If you tell them to go faster, okay, and this is so taboo to some in a training environment. And again, Brent will be like, I don't care where the bullets go right now. There's times we'll do that with people. I don't care. I just want you to shoot the gun fast. And they're like, oh, but we got to have accuracy. But back up, people. You're missing the whole point of what we're trying to do. And to me, that comes down with the depth of knowledge and self-exploration in this, and truly trying to get into the weeds of this thing to sift it down to what it takes. How do people shoot the gun in a very high performance way with crazy amount of accountability? Well, that's what we're not expecting somebody to come out here and be able to run a 175 bill drill after 2.5 days of training.
Right.
That's not it. But we want you to understand what it is to go as fast as you can go and maintain an acceptable level of accuracy. Because speed and accuracy, I mean, that whole deal, the whole like hit factor scoring, that's something that we do, that we implement in the actual recruit training. whenever we do those things, I give the example is that if you can draw the gun and you put a shot right in the middle of the A zone and you do it in 1.7 seconds, right? Okay, you center punched it, everything's good. And then somebody comes up there and they do it in 0.87 seconds, okay, practically a second faster. Is the speed from which that bullet left, basically from the time
the timer went off,
and they drew the gun and fired it. You got a 0.87 or a 1.7.
The bullet traveled the same speed.
Sure, it did. It's how fast the bullet got there based on the person interacting with the gun to do it. But did the speed from which that happened, does that have anything to do with the accuracy of the shot? It absolutely doesn't. And everybody thinks, oh, well, that has everything to do with it, because the faster they go, usually for most people, the accuracy suffers.
Yep. But
you have got to put the speed with it for the reality of what happens in law enforcement and learn how to wrangle that. That's the failure part.
Right.
That's what to get people to accept that and try that is really hard, especially with police officers, because we're responsible for every round thing. And I can go on a tangent with that, man. It's
but you're not, because like what we see out there is while you're saying that, that's not actually what's happening when we see it happen in real life.
Absolutely.
That's 100% true.
That's not what we're seeing. There's two truths in what we see in OISs, and one is that it happens very fast.
Yes.
Right. There could be a third here. And that there's always movement involved.
Right.
It's always dynamic in nature at some level. And I don't mean the point where the decision was made to fire the gun. Sure. That's fast. That has to be fast.
Absolutely.
Right. A reaction time. But then what happens after that, to where the shots are being fired and where in space and time are those things happening? They're not being trained that way. Right. And again, going back to being responsible for every round, they're sending rounds. But they're not doing what they're not hitting. They're not saying what they should be saying. To
your very point there about that they're going to shoot the gun fast because there's bad shit happening right now, man, and I want it to stop. Okay, well, do they need to have experience shooting the gun in a very, very aggressive way and work on building that skill before the time comes, heaven forbid, that they're out there on the street and they're faced with the reality?
I would think so.
Sure.
Right.
Like that's our deal.
Going back to pitching it to the stars and bars.
Yes.
Exactly.
And that was one of the things that was brought up. And they're like, well, okay. And you think about going out there with driver training. When they go out there and they're doing we got the cones set up out there on the track and they're driving, wheels off. Well, do you put around the cones at 20 miles an hour? No, they want you to, you're going to blow through the cones and they're going to tell you that, hey, keep it between the lines, man. Keep us upright. That's all it is. And they want you to experience what that car feels like.
It's no different.
When it's hauling ass. It's no different.
Right. But for so long, it was different.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah.
And whenever you talk about the decision and how people are going to go fast like that, just backtracking to that one thing, is we were doing critical, CPI reviews. And had a room full of people there. Obviously to remain nameless from varying ranks within the department that do different things. And we talk about whenever those things happen, and that's with every police department around, man. You've got some really, really stellar stuff, and then you've got some stuff where you're like, oh,
right,
man, and just being real about it. Just call it what it is. And I said, listen, our skills are not supporting our decision making. I'm not talking about the justification, because when bad man points gun at good man, right? Cop, innocent civilian, whatever the case may be, is the justification there. I'm not talking about that. That's a separate segment of this, the justification of it. But at the point of delivery right there, the skills that the people have, okay, are not supporting the decision to pull the trigger.
Yeah, go a little deeper, because,
Okay. If you're justified in using deadly force, okay, you're responsible for putting the bullets where the bullets need to go. When we go over here to this, we're responsible for every round thing when we get in that camp. Yeah. But it's not happening.
Right.
Okay. That's an evident thing. And it's not just, here in big cities in Texas. It's everywhere. It's across the nation.
First round hits in law enforcement are less than 20%.
Dismal. Okay, so what's the most important one?
I don't know what the average rounds fired in an OIS is, but 10?
Sometimes it's, shoot the slide lock.
Right.
Or nothing.
At a 20% hit factor on shot one, where are those other ones going?
Okay, and then, well, what is it a good shooting? Okay, if if the guy comes through that door right there, okay, you jerk the gun and fire 10 rounds at this person, and one of them grazes an arm and another one hits him in the lower leg.
Right.
Okay, and that person says, man, that shit hurt. Throws the gun down, or whatever.
That's a win, Chancey. That
exactly, and that's my point. Right. You jumped right to it. They're like, oh, well, we won, and I agree. Okay, the dude didn't. The dude didn't die. Okay, good. Officer's okay. Things fine.
Good.
Is the shooting good? Everybody says the shooting's good. Hell no, it's not. It's the furthest thing from good.
What happened to the other 8
There's
rounds?
a difference between a justified shooting and a good shooting, I think.
Yeah.
If you shoot 10 rounds and you parked 9 out of 10 in your hand and you might have had one just sneak out just a little bit, is that a good shooting for the shooting part of it?
Good question.
The answer is absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, hey, good job, dude. Right. Now we're doing it. We know, because that's a requisite level of skill that has to be had to accomplish that. Not the person that just spits 10 of them that direction and skips one into a leg and grazes an arm, and the guy says, "Man, that shit hurt."
Right.
I don't want to fight the police anymore. Everybody thinks that it's a win. Well, what happened with that officer right there? Our big thing is, okay, we need to reach out to that person. We need to bring them in, and we need to have the tough conversation. We need to help that person. Are we sitting in a position of judgment? The answer is yes, based on title, job title, whatever the case may be.
By default.
By default, sure. But how you handle that in that interaction, departmentally, unit level wise, supervision wise, all of that stuff matters, because that guy or gal is going to have to live with that. The justification was there.
Gotcha.
That aside. So now they're going to have to go through the rest of their career. Did they need the false sense that I've got the skill that I need? Heaven forbid I find myself in that situation.
When they know
again.
they don't. Right. When they know they
Deep
don't.
Deep down, they don't. Deep down, they know they don't.
So what have we done? We've set them up for failure.
Yeah, and we just let them go back to the street. Let them work. Let them do their thing.
Well, they get a week off. They got a week off.
Yeah.
Then they go
mandatory days.
Right.
No, you bring that person in. You have the conversations. You give them the resources that they need to build the skill, so that if heaven forbid they're faced with that again, they have it. They've got it on them. Let's go.
Yeah, without bashing them. I mean,
sure.
Yeah, and I see
not
that
degrade them.
That happens frequently. Everybody's got an opinion about how that shooting went, and there. Can we just say good job? For getting through that the way you got through that. But can we also agree there's some room for improvement here, man? Yep. Right. And can we talk about that? Because there's absolutely room for improvement. I
would argue that those people will be jonesing for the help as long as it's delivered the right way.
Yes. Yeah.
From somebody, from an entity that they respect. Now we're talking about environment again. We go back to it. We talk about the culture. We talk about how they're being, quote, judged. Because if cops judge the shit out of one another. I mean, let's be real. We do. If we're breathing, we're bitching about something. We hate change, right? But we can't stand it the way it is. I mean, it's this vicious circle of crap.
Yeah, I think there's two ends of the spectrum that happen on that example that you shared. One is, again, you get the mandatory days, and what's happening during those mandatory days? You're on an island all by yourself, because the environment around you, whether that's the court of public opinion, the opinion of, your fellow officers, your agency, your department, the DA's office, a prosecuting attorney, anything that might be involved there, the IA crew, the shooting investigations crew, or whatever else, nobody's talking to that guy, right? Nobody's talking.
We can't talk.
No, don't talk to that guy, because we don't know how this is going to end up. And don't touch the hurt guy, right? It's like touching it's touching your teammate that's on crutches on the side. Don't even get near me, man. That's bad juju. I don't want that. I don't want that, right? So that happens. And so then when they come back, when it's all said and done, one of two things happens. Either they are propped up, right, on, I don't want to say false pretenses, because good job, you made it through, but there's so many other things there. Yep. Or it's like silent, right? And I'm not saying, because this is a justified shooting, right? It's silent. It's like, okay, we got through that one, right? Like, let's just get him back in. Let's not make any noise about this. The optics, the things, all the discussion. Just go back to work, man. You're good to go. The attorney say, the agency says you're good. Just go back. Good job. Right.
We owe them more.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what I'm saying. There's so much left on the table.
And that's what we're absolutely trying to do. I mean, with ours is we owe them more. Yeah. We're fortunate with what we have, and we owe them everything we got, man. We do. We don't want people on the island like that. That's
It's a lonely place to be.
Yeah. You know, at different times in careers, I mean, there's been where you run into the wall and you question a lot of stuff. Imagine being on that island, being out there, like, you know, the way you describe it.
What did I do wrong? I don't know if I did or didn't do it wrong. I was trained, right? Like I did what I was trained to do, trained in air quotes, trained to do. Yet, why am I sitting out here all by myself right now? Well, that's what you signed up to do, man. You know,
that's the easy answer.
That's the easy answer. That's the easy button.
That's the stop jerking the trigger answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Post OIS, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've got a lot of that's a hell of a damn hill to climb for law enforcement as a whole. But we've got to do it, man. We got to tackle it.
Yeah. So I think kind of going back to the beginning, the term I've heard you use is taking the lid off. Right.
Yes.
And taking the lid off and letting them get out there and explore and figure things out and make mistakes and fail and show them why it's okay and tell them why it's okay and get them to figure out that it is okay and here's how to make it better from where you are now, kind of thing. And taking the lid off anything in law enforcement is like that's taboo. I mean, you mentioned the driving, you know, the driving stuff or whatever, but that's taboo. And they're not supposed to talk about it. They're supposed to shut up and just do what they're told. And I think it's funny when I asked that question, you said they expected you to be able to perform. Like, what would the student have an expectation of the instructors when they go, that they'd perform? Excuse me. Part of me thinks that expectation is, man, this is going to be hard. Like, I'm going to be criticized. I think that's probably what they expect. Like, I'm going to be shitty, and that's just going to be it. And I don't want to be that way, so I'm focused on not being shitty.
Right.
Whatever that is.
They will see us fail. We will intentionally fail. There's times when we get up there to do a demo, okay, and we screw it up by the damn numbers. It's not a matter of making an excuse. It's a matter of calling out what happened, okay, the same things that they're going to do at some point in this juncture. You know, whenever
if you're trying
this
hard enough, that's what's going to happen,
yeah,
right?
And we'll tell them, we want you to push to failure. And whenever we do this, we're going to do that same thing whenever we demonstrate. We're going to show you, okay, yeah, here's acceptable. This is pretty good, okay? This is a little better. You better be able to pull out some wow stuff, man. Ideally, because this is where we want you to go. But then we're going to show you all the common things that happen that we find. Okay, because there's only so many ways to screw it up, right? Yep. I mean, you're holding the gun with two hands in front of your face and pulling a little hangy down thing.
Well, man, depending on who you ask.
They think it's some damn, you know, teaching physics.
It's calculus.
Yeah, it's too close.
One thing that Chancey and I do too is we do it a lot, both privately and then in day job stuff, is we'll demo things simultaneously. Right, we'll have the same exact drill set up, or a drill to where it's two people are able to shoot it at the same time.
Oh, that's smart, yeah.
And we'll tell them, hey, you know, either I'm going to do it the right way, or Chancey, you know, Chancey's going to do everything the right way, the way that we want you guys to do this, how we want you to get into and out of position, how we want you to stay mounted to the gun, whatever the case may be, right? So I want you guys to watch him get in and out of a position during this drill, and then I want you to watch me get in and out of position, and I will go and just F it up by the numbers, right? But it's the most common mistakes we see people make. And then we dissect it, right?
So that they recognize that's normal then.
Right.
When I do make that mistake.
So, and I'll tell them like, hey, I'll ask them like, what did I do? Oh, you did this, or you went too deep into this barrel, or
checking for understanding. Yeah.
Right. And then that way, when they're running it and they find themselves in that position, they're like,
they can reverse engineer it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I watched him do that, and he said, this is what he did, and this is what I should be doing.
And I did that.
Right? Instead of just either not demoing anything at all, or going out there and just giving a half-ass demo, or doing it as fast as you possibly can and pulling out the wow shit like Chancey's talking about, right? Because we all know that most students try to do what you do. They don't
emulate.
They don't do what you tell them to do. They see you do something and they want to do it exactly that way.
It's like parenting. It's like kids.
Right.
Kids don't do what they tell you to do. They do what they see you doing.
Right. And so now they see me fucking it up by the numbers, you know, intentionally, and they see Chancey doing it the correct way. Well, now they have something to revert back to when it's their turn to go. And we'll, hey, what did you feel, or what did you see when you got to this position? I did this and this. Do you remember what we talked about in the demo? Yeah. Let me go again. Let me go again.
That's what you want.
That's what we want.
Let me fail at it again.
Yeah.
Or let me succeed.
Right.
I'm not thinking about that. Let me go again.
Yeah.
Right. Like, let me try this again, and maybe I'll mess it up. Maybe I'll be successful, but I'll know when I get there. And that's what you want. Like,
Exactly.
I'll know when I've arrived.
You're learning from the failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's actively seeking it. You know, you got to go out there and push all the way up there to that edge, back off just a tick. Okay. Can I maintain that? Mm-hmm. And there's ebbs and flows to this.
And that's the levels.
Yeah.
Right.
There's ebbs and flows to it.
Yeah.
It's something else, man.
So I think what you'd get probably if I'm sitting in the audience right now and I've been following this and I've been trying to get better, what I think you're getting a lot of agreement, right, at this point. But you're also going to get a lot of, that doesn't sound right to me at all, because they don't know any better, right? And this is going to be quote unquote shocking. Like, and if you haven't seen it before, then I get that, right? You have to see it in practice and then practice it in order to have it sink in. But there's going to be a lot of people that are like, yeah, man, that's what I've been trying to do here, but I get nothing but pushback, and I'm beating my head against the wall.
We see it all over the country, man. Yeah. All over the country. We see it with law enforcement agencies, and trying to be progressive and practical and take the training to quote unquote mimic how they're going to perform out in the real world, minus the stress and somebody shooting back or whatever the case may be, right? But the speed side of it and the running the gun side of it and the movement side of it, you know, it's not just standing on the 7-yard line or the 5 or whatever and shooting little tiny groups and saying, you're good to carry a gun and go forth and conquer and defend the world.
Protect your life and other people's lives. Yeah.
You got to take care of those, because every range has probably got it. And again, we're super fortunate where we're at. But to have the people that show up that want to train, the ones that come in the door, they
got to want it.
Yeah, and the ones that
recognize those people.
Absolutely, yeah. And you better cultivate them.
Couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah. The way I put it is, you got to feed the ones that are hungry.
Yeah, how do you? So I've talked about this with other folks before too, in terms of cultivating that kind of an environment. Like, really, is it rewarding them, or is it acknowledging them, or is it both? And what does that look like? You know, because you want other people to be hungry, but you can only bring them to the trough. You can't necessarily make them eat, right? So, what practices do you use in order to get people that are hungry to feel acknowledged, and those that maybe aren't so much or aren't as good, but are hungry and aren't good enough yet? How do you do it?
Engagement. Provide the resources if you have them. Okay. Provide those resources to them, i.e. ammunition. Okay. Get them in there into the range. When they're in their training, go in there with them. They usually come there because they want help.
Yeah, give them more.
But
they're going to be afraid to ask for it. Yeah.
But go in there and be like, hey, I'm going to run drills. And that's what we did. Well, Wednesday before we came up here, was in there after lunch. Guys came in, like, hey, can we go in the range and shoot? Sure. Got them ammunition. They go in there and shoot and be like, I'll be in there in just a minute. And then walk in and you see those guys working. You go over there and you work in with them. You shoot. And then what I did is I grabbed a couple of cones. There was some steel up, hang a couple of paper targets, mask one of them off a little bit, make this a little bit tougher right here. Now we need to move to these 3 positions. Didn't do any instructing. Okay. None of that stuff, but had these people run through dynamic drills.
You're teaching them how to train.
Yeah, just give them more.
They're training.
They're teaching them how to train.
Yes. And not with some dissertation, not some big explanation of stuff. Run through
You're setting it up for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And leading them through that.
They don't know what questions to ask a lot of times. Like, they want you to look at what you said, is they need or they want help. They just don't know how to, maybe it's not, they're not afraid to ask. They don't know what questions to ask.
Correct.
They don't know that. So put some stuff in front of them that gets them moving and stimulating the brain, and they'll develop questions along the way. It's a developmental process.
And I think one of the biggest things, like Chancey's talking about, is you want them leaving there feeling like they accomplished something or they learned something. Not that they just went and checked out practice ammo and went and made holes in a target, because at the end of the day, they're not going to feel like they really truly got anything.
A waste of time.
Right.
Yeah.
But they may feel a little good, like, oh, I got some trigger time in. But, deep down, they know, like, did I really learn anything, or did I get anything out of that session?
Well, if you let them leave thinking that, then that's partly your responsibility too.
100%.
I mean, I would say, asking them what they learned. What'd you do today? What are you practicing today before you come in? Like, I mean, that's a question. What are you training today? Right. I mean, that's an easy question to ask, and it's an assessment question on your part that gives you an opportunity to maybe ask a follow-up question or two, again, to then provide them with some direction, but also give you an understanding of what they know, what they don't know, and what they truly do need, because they might think they know, and you could very quickly assess.
Or where's the low-hanging fruit with what they're doing?
Yes, exactly.
To be able to help them get better. Because what's the only two measurements in this game?
Speed and accuracy.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only two. That's it. Like it's a very, very simple thing.
So what are you working on today?
Right. I think one of the
speed or accuracy.
How about and?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
No ors and.
That's where it was going to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And one of the coolest things too is what we're seeing a lot of now is we have a deal where if you're a recruit in while you're in the academy, you have unlimited bullets to practice with, right? And they got time crunches and they got schedules and classes and all whatever, and we've always said that to every recruit class, right? In the 8 years I've been down at the range full time, we've said that to every recruit class. And you'll have a couple recruits come in on a Friday or whatever, and they'll like go shoot a little bit or whatever. I mean, my phone literally every single week with the recruits that are in there.
Can I come shoot?
Hey man, can you set something up at lunch? I'll be down there at 10:30, or we got lunch at 11. Can you set something up? And I'll go in there and just build out drills, and they're like, oh, thanks, man. And I'm like, let's go. Like, here, you run the timer, I'll shoot it. And they're like, you're going to shoot? Yeah, I'm going to shoot with you. But I think the culture's changing, and I think us giving them more and making them hungry to come back.
Feeding them.
We're constantly feeding them, and they want to come back, and we're seeing it more now, right? They want to come back and because they get something out of it, not just like, oh, I shot 50 rounds, I'm good for the rest of this year.
Yeah, and whether there's one of them or 10 of them, you're winning.
Well, it's funny
something like that
because it started with 2,
and
then it grew to like 4. Yeah. Now there's like 7 different ones.
It's contagious.
It's contagious, right? And I mean, I got recruit numbers I don't even have saved because I don't remember their names, right? But like they'll text me like, "Hey man, can you set something up? I got me and 3 of the recruits are going to come down." Like, so the answer is always yes.
Yeah, but you're giving them access to you. It's not locked up in the office or in the armory, or whatever. Yeah, exactly. So going back to the environment.
Yes. That's the huge deal, and with the the instructorship side of it is instructors have got to go out there and they've got to work on bettering themselves. And they have to develop a personal understanding of what they're doing. How are the bullets getting where they're going? What are you physically doing? What are you seeing? And what does it feel like to be able to do that and measure it objectively? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's going to give you a level of understanding for you what it takes to do that. Okay. If you're not working on you to be better at your craft, if you're, quote, an instructor, I got no use for you, man. Like, really? You're going to be expected to help other people, but you're unwilling to help yourself?
Yeah, to me, intrinsically, that makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. It's shocking to me that we have so many folks out there that don't feel like that, right? Sure. And whether that's the officer or the instructor or the administrator or whatever.
I've derived.
Yeah, they've made it. Like,
I have the badge and the gun. I'm good.
Right.
Or I'm an instructor, so I know everything. You should just listen to me. Whatever I say is the gospel. You should be questioning. You should be pushing it constantly.
So if you don't have that, right? If you don't have that in you, mm-hmm. if it's not in your whatever, maybe you had it and you lost it, mm-hmm. right? You gotta go figure it out. You gotta find it again. Whatever. How do you cultivate that? Like on the team. So as the team lead, mm-hmm. right, the leader, and you as an instructor, how do you cultivate that inside your own team?
You bring everybody together. We go out there and shoot. We work at it together. We talk about amongst ourselves. We talk about where's the low-hanging fruit. Where can we get better with this? And you push. I'm saying that there's bullying. That's not what it is, but there needs to be pressure. Mm-hmm. This is good. We rack and stack this deal, guys. Let's go out there and compete amongst ourselves. Let's bring that up.
That's the first time that word has come up, compete, mm-hmm. right, in this. And so there's a lot of talk around competition, and that's how to get better.
And that's damn sure the case, man.
There is a way. That's a way to get better. And so whether you're doing that on the USPSA meet or match, mm-hmm. or whether you're doing that on the range with your own folks, there's a way to do that. Is
it still not the same thing? And people will argue. Yeah, they will say that, this is like tactical shooting. Well, shooting is shooting, man. Like, there's nothing that's tactical about it. Now, you can put on all the accoutrements and 60 pounds of shit and run around, and I call it tactical peacocking. I'm guilty of it, too. Whole bunch of flared out, and I need to look real cool. How about just be real good at doing the thing? That's the idea. You know, you've got to go out there and you've got to cultivate it. We're big on the competitive side of it, you know, of going out and competing. There's cops that they don't want to go. Because and this has been said by multiple people. You know, I mean, this is nothing new, but their egos are in the way, man. Mm-hmm. Because they're going to go out there and they're going to get their asses kicked up between their ears by somebody that doesn't carry a gun for a living. And then the question, you know, a lot of times will come up, well, why is that person that good? The plumber, the electrician, they did
the work.
That's it. That's what it comes down to. Is they want to be good with this tool. And it's a hobby for them, obviously. Mm-hmm. You know, I pose this question to officers sometimes. I said, okay, well, your ability with your firearm. I said, if I told you tomorrow that you had to go out there and go to work on the street and you can't take your gun, I said, would you go? I'm like, hell no, I wouldn't go. I said, okay, well, there's a 99% chance that you're never going to need it in the course of your career. Truly need it to defend yourself or someone else. 99% chance. Yet you won't go work a day without it. So tell me where's the problem here? But boy, you will see people, they will start crawfishing.
They'll defend it all.
Well. I mean, the answers are there, man. It's all the information's out there. This world is full of all the answers to be really, really good with that tool. Please come on and get better with it. Go to your first match, get your ass kicked. Mm-hmm. I still go to matches and get my butt kicked. But it's fun. I can't. What I want to do is take my $500 gun and beat the guy that's running the PCC because I don't have to say anything to that dude. That dude's gonna know. He's gonna be like, man, this dude with a $500 Glock. Right. My goal is to beat him.
Right.
Go chase him, man. Like right. It is. And you will find out where things fall apart in all things shooting when you go out there and shoot a match. The people out there are super accommodating. The camaraderie is good. Along those lines, I mean, we're fixing to teach a class in September, and the Saturday afterwards, there it'll be up on the TTPOA website, and man, we're doing an LE match, man. We're going full gainer. I
love
this
it.
Thing.
Yeah, I love it. Give people an opportunity and to come out.
It's not going to cost you a nickel, man. Bring some bullets and let's go.
Put your money where your mouth is at the same time.
Yep, we got what's in the works to where we're going to do one at the conference next year too, man. Amazing. Like it's going to be all this chatter, all this back and forth stuff, and we'll let everybody go out there and shake it out.
Yeah, and that's part of it, man. Yeah. I think that's part of the culture. Yeah. Like it is part of going back to being on a team, right? Competing at sports. That's part of it. It's healthy, right? Mm-hmm. As long as it's being realized, you know. Mm-hmm. Again, the reality is we're actually doing this. We're not just talking trash. We're going out there to do it, and trash will be talked, right?
Oh yeah.
I think I think that's a healthy part of it. I know it's also part of the culture. Mm-hmm. So I look at that and I go like, so if you're not okay with that, are you in the right spot?
Probably, probably need to do a little.
I'm not saying you have to have thick skin. I'm just saying like, you know, it's not a thick skin thing. It's like, this is just kind of what we do here. Mm-hmm. So, you know, everybody's going to be a little sensitive about it sometimes. That's the whole fucking point. Like, like nobody likes to be the low man on the totem pole. No, so somebody's got to be on the bottom. Mm-hmm. If you don't like the way that feels, that's good.
Change it.
Yeah, that's good.
I think you just hit it right there. And that's kind of like what the direction, the dynamic of the people that we work with and stuff is there's going to be somebody who's on the bottom. And as long as that person's working to better themselves, I mean, that's what we want, right? We want them to constantly be putting in the work, whether it's teaching or shooting or in both, right? To better themselves and not have that mentality of, well, I made it, I arrived, I have the shirt to prove it, and I don't have to do anything else. And by God, you got to listen to me. And Chancey's been doing a really good job, I think, of facilitating that within the unit. And it always turns into a competition, right? Because of who we are, right? But it's never been like, first place gets like a free day off
or beer or something like that.
It's never like that, right? And it always comes back to bettering yourself.
Like, what do I get?
Yeah,
for being number one.
There's no self-satisfaction.
Self-satisfaction.
You're the one that's there. Yeah.
There's nothing more than that. But here's
the thing is, the person who's number one, number two needs to be working to catch him, and number one needs to be working to stay number one, right? Not like I'm number one, I've arrived, and so the next time we do whatever it is we do, that number one goes to number 7. Well, you haven't been working at all, dude.
So the reality of that is there really is no arrival. There's never a destination on this.
No,
right?
top of the mountain.
Right. It just keeps going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like I say, you see what's possible out there with it, and you see stuff. I mean, look at social media. I mean, there's guys and gals out there that are it's incredible.
Oh, the stuff they're doing with guns?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, it blows my mind.
You look at people that are just incredibly good, and their level of consistency is the separator. Like you go out there and pull, man, like, yeah, man, I shot X drill, whatever it is, and did really, really good. Okay, well then you do it again and you fall on your face.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well what happened? If you get to the point to where you understand, you can see and feel the problems, okay, with whatever that was, okay, then we're growing. But then you look over here at this other person and they can do it 10 out of 10 times. Like clockwork. That's possible to be that good on demand. You should be pushing towards that is the idea. Now, not everybody wants to be a big time competitive shooter, different stuff like that.
That's not the point.
No, it's not. It's a matter of you need to be, could you be too good with the gun if you had to use it to defend yourself?
Too good, no such thing.
There's no such thing. But what's good enough?
Right.
Who has that answer? The ones that's still standing. Okay, was it good enough? Okay, was it?
Took 1, 2 in the leg, right?
Yeah, it's exactly what I'm getting.
They went wherever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's the difference maker. But we got too much opportunity out there. I mean, we got the generational change that everybody talks about with cops. You know, whenever you look around and you're old enough to be their dad, you know, and you're like, oh my God. Everybody's like, oh well, the people are different. People that are becoming cops are different. Blah 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 blah.
Maybe there's truth in that, but they're still just people.
They're still just people, but what's our job?
Yeah.
If we're going to teach somebody to shoot a gun, what I want more than anything is for everybody to be as good as we can possibly get them.
Figure it out.
Before they go out there and hit the street. Yeah. That's the idea. It's not any of the other stuff. Make as well-rounded a shooter as you possibly can. And get all the other crap out of the damn way, guys. Work on making these people better at the craft.
So I'm going to go back to, we touched on this at the beginning, just with regard to like the sandpaper approach, as you guys approached admin. And when I say that, the brass, whatever, however we want to reference it, and how you kept it really simple, right? And not a whole lesson plan. And this is how we're going to do it over 3 years. There was this idea in a reality check that happened. And you mentioned it being the sandpaper approach. And I think a lot of people be listening to this going, man, I've been beating my head against that wall for a long time. What advice? Like what approach? What are the hacks? What are the tips here?
The big thing is you have to have some people skills. You need a requisite level of respect amongst the people that you're, respect on their end, and it's a two-way street.
And how do you get that?
Okay, work your ass off. Okay. Work your ass off and do the thing. Be able to go up there and show them. Be able to explain to them what it is that you're doing and the why behind it. You reference some things like the officer-involved shootings, the way that they happen, the dynamic nature that it happens 99.9% of the time. You paint that picture for them, make it undeniable, okay, in real time, face-to-face, not with a chip on your shoulder, okay, but that is sandpaper, that is rough, we have to face this, okay, and then you have to have the damn answer. You've got to come with solutions. You can bitch all the way to the top, but if you're not bringing solutions with you, what's the answer going to be?
You should expect to know.
Right, exactly. That's absolutely correct. So whenever you go up there with them and you say, okay, having a requisite level of skill, the drive to push forward with it, and the drive to work to change it, and tell them this is what we will implement. Show them. You have to show them. You can talk about it all day long, but it's a can or can't thing when it's teaching firearms. Either you can do it or you cannot. Get them and put that before them.
You mentioned like doing the work and being able to show them, and earlier we were talking about does the thing that we're doing the thing that happened justify the decision making that we make. So if your decision is to go and fight this fight, can you do the things that you're saying you can do? And I think there's a gap there.
There's a big gap there.
What do you need resource-wise?
Right.
Personnel-wise.
Right.
You need to be relatable to them as well, right? You need to find a way to relate to the administration. Because right, wrong, or indifferent, they're by their job, they're 6, 7, 8 ranks above me, right? But I have to find a way to relate, and like Chancey was saying, is putting it into context for them that is relatable and is a hot topic, which is OISs, right? I mean, they're scrutinized to the nth degree, as they should be. Being relatable, being personable, and having the skill set like Chancey was talking about, but not just writing a memo and sending it up the chain. Like, that's not going to cut it.
That's not relationship building.
And so many, I've talked to so many officers from around, Texas and smaller agencies around where we come from, and even in other states. And it's like, well, man, admin's not behind us. And we're like, well, what are you doing to change it? Mm-hmm. Are you getting in front of them? Are you talking to them? Are you showing them things? Are you bringing them solutions to problems? Are you giving them something to relate this to? And they're like, well, no, I wrote a memo, and they threw it in the trash.
The bullets aren't going where I want the bullets to
They
go.
don't want to work at it, man.
They don't want to work at it, right? And what people don't realize when it comes to changing culture and changing training and the approach to training and the style of training and having the administration on your side, the physicality of shooting the gun is one small portion of that. It takes so much more work to get administration to buy in. Some people, it takes a little bit longer because you have a relatively larger agency like we do. Some people, they could walk right into the sheriff's office and because there's 9 people that work at the agency and hey, can I get 10 minutes of your time? Let me know when you're available to come out to the range. I want to show you some stuff that I'm thinking about doing. Many people
situational.
So many people are afraid to even do that, though, because they may not have the skill set to do it. Well, if that's the case, then work on it. If you want to change, you got to start with yourself.
Yeah, what's the worst answer you're going to get? No.
Right.
But that doesn't mean, if you're told no, that doesn't mean that you can't work on you. That doesn't mean that you can't help your guys and gals in your program and be invested in them. Don't be the one that sits there like a damn bump on a log and looks at them when they come in.
One of the things that Chancey and I did to kind of help, I don't know if it really helped the administration. Well, it did help the administration, right? Is we decided to put on a class, and it was like a pistol refresher class, basically. We did 44 of them in a 6-month period.
Yep.
It
was this a mandated thing?
Nope.
Or it was
all voluntary.
We recruited the folks.
I was just going to say that.
And we would adjust our schedule, right? Okay. And stay till 2:00 in the morning to give midnight guys an opportunity to come down and train. Okay. And then we'd have them all fill out evaluations, right? And we started implementing new drills and new methodology and new ways of approaching shooting and the practical side of shooting, right? And we just gave it to our people. Like, we just gave it away.
It's not a TCOL or a post-approved thing.
I mean,
it's
firearms training.
It's a refresher workshop, if you want to call it that.
We just gave it away, right? And when we said, if you like it, tell your people. And before you know it, it's like, we have another class. We got another class. We'd have 2 classes in the same day, 3 classes in the same day, 4-hour blocks, right? We're working 14 hours that day teaching. And then we'd take those evals and we'd just slide them. And more people started like, well, hold on a second. Like, you're looking at these evals and
they're positive. They're
loving it. They're eating it up. Do we have guys that came back 3 and 4 times? Like, I can't get enough of this. And this starts happening. Mm-hmm. And that starts happening up certain chains. And then we start getting phone calls from people like, hey, what are y'all doing? Like, hey.
Maybe they're a little bit more receptive to the conversation.
Right. Now. But that takes work on our end.
Yeah. It's environment. And now they can come down there like, wait, this is what's happening. People are enjoying this. Okay. Do we keep it light? Sure. When we have recruits, we keep it light. Be safe. Yeah. It isn't a matter of, okay, you're fixing to have to do 50 push-ups because A, B, and C happens. So come on, man. Yeah. We're not in there trying to get strong. We're trying to get good with a gun.
Good point.
Yeah. So we keep it light. Keep the air's not too thick. Mm-hmm. We don't want they're going to be critical enough of themselves that they usually don't need anybody judging.
Yeah, they know what you're wearing on your collar. Like that. Right. Yeah, let's break that down.
Just be a dude, man. Go out there and help them. It's amazing to me how somebody can go out there and look at somebody, give whenever they're the instructorship side of it is, you got a brand new recruit and they walk up there on the line, they've never touched a gun, and it's the first 6, 7 magazines that they shoot, because that's all they shoot the first day. And somebody is giving them 4 or 5 things that they need to do to be better at this. They can't think about anything other than holy shit.
All the explosions going off.
Yes.
In their face.
This is loud.
Yeah,
Like
just let them shoot the gun, man. Like just let's break the ice right here.
Don't get frustrated by this as an instructor either, right? Like, oh, I got another one.
Yep.
We know there's very, very little instruction going on that first day, really and truly instruction, right? It's more of breaking the ice, because there's a lot of people that never fired a gun before, and they're like, this thing's going to flip up in my hands and smack me in the face, and all this whatever, right?
It might. How do you fix that?
Yeah, they're scared, like they're scared of it, right? But going back to what we were talking about and changing, getting administration on real quick, is I think a lot of people, especially doing the job that I do on a day-to-day basis, which is teach firearms, there's a lot of ego involved. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of that. And I think that is super detrimental, right? Like, leave your rank and your ego at the door.
It's kind of what I was saying.
And let's just be people like Chancey said, just be a dude and let's just shoot the gun, right? Like, let's just shoot. And my approach is, and Chancey's the same way, is, I'm sure you've been to those classes where the instructor feels like he or she has to be the baddest
something
dude
to prove
on the range, right?
I already paid you your $600, man. Like,
Right.
Like, my deal is like, I want to be, at the end of my class that I teach, I want to be the worst shooter on the range. I want to be the worst dude on the range. And if one student beats me in a drill or whatever, or a recruit does something like, wow,
prop them up.
Hey,
Yeah.
high five, like, that just fills my heart, but you have other guys and they're like, they get pissed off about it, and like,
There's an excuse.
there's always an excuse, man. Like, hey, how about this? How about they got you?
Yeah.
Give them a high five.
Yeah.
Hey, kid, whatever you just did,
Keep
do that
doing that,
again,
yeah.
over and over and over again, and you're going to be just fine. And they're like, yeah.
Keep doing that.
But leave the ego and all the BS out.
Yeah, which goes a long way, because that's going to get around. Like, did you hear that Joe over there beat Brian at that drill?
Whatever, yeah, and that's great.
That's great. Like, let it ride.
Yeah, dude, and I'll
ride
be
that
like,
wave.
yeah. I'll be like, come on,
he smoked
did.
me.
Yeah,
he got me.
We're fixing to put kind of a rack them and stack them. We got a TV out there that's outside in the lobby whenever you walk in, and we're fixing to make it to where, talking to admin, another thing to it is to incentivize things around there for officers. We can't do much, it's not like they're gonna get extra pay or something,
Mm-hmm.
but be able to incentivize it and get that competitive nature, the competitive juices flowing to get people up there.
To me, it's really easy. You don't even need a TV for it. But and again, tell me if this is stupid, if it is. But like, what's the problem with, like, if you went to a CrossFit gym, or you went to a Olympic weightlifting gym or a powerlifting gym or whatever, man, there's a grease board in there or a chalkboard on there, and everybody they have names and they have what their weights are or what their times are or whatever else. And in this case, it's like, here's the top shooter and here's the bottom shooter, right? It's going to move,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's going to constantly move. And again, it creates that chasing, it creates that acknowledgement of, this is what can be done. This dude, whoever he is, I might not know him. He's in the agency somewhere or whatever, and he's doing this with a gun. Who is that? And what is he doing? Oh, that's that guy that, he shoots USPSA matches every weekend or whatever. Maybe that's what he's known for. Oh, well, of course he's going to be at the top, right? But then number 2, who's back, however far, right? Like, well, who's that? Like, he's chasing him. He's getting closer. Yeah, he just started shooting 4 months ago, right? Like, those kind of stories. To me, it's super simple. Like, just everybody knows who number 1 is, and everybody's chasing that. If you don't like being at the bottom, don't be at the bottom.
Yep. Right. It's just a little bit of motivation going right there. And that whole deal of feeding, like I say, we're feeding the ones that are hungry whenever they come in. And you got guys from different teams that'll come in and shoot. Well, they talk about it in a positive light because they're getting better. Their interaction whenever they come into that environment is positive.
Contagious.
Okay, it's contagious. So now you've got somebody else on the team says, "Hey, won't you come tag along?" They start recruiting people.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's not a matter of taking the bottom 50% and trying to put them on your back and carry them to the top. It's a matter of taking those guys that are climbing some, and you start pulling them back up here, level for level for level, and we work from the top, pulling them up. That's what you have to do. That attitude to bring people up. It's not a matter of getting on the bottom and pushing it.
Acknowledge the people that are doing the work.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. There's nothing wrong with telling, hey, man, this dude he's salty.
Right.
This guy's got it going on. And cultivate that. Don't get your feelings hurt because if he whoops your ass, it ought to motivate you some more.
Right, exactly.
Go forward and do it. Because whenever you start pulling those people up like that, and foundationally, if you teach them a progressive, practical, aggressive work at it,
how to train,
how to diagnose it, how to see whenever the problems are happening, feel whenever the problems are happening, not just listening to some, cookie cutter, answer over here, then we're starting at the foundational level with recruits now, so that now every person that comes in the pipeline, now we've got something pushing from the bottom half too.
Yep, exactly. It takes a bit of time to do.
Yeah,
but
it's not overnight.
But you start with the hungry people.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Start acknowledging them.
Feed them on the top, pushing, and these people have a different frame of mind, a different approach coming in on the bottom half of it.
And how does that translate to the street, right? When they're out there on patrol or whatever units they're working for or whatever, and how does that cultivate these little clubs within the club that want to be better and chase one another and be part of something bigger than them, or it's a little bit different.
Right.
You get it. This job is still, like, as much as people back and forth with it. I mean, you hear it said, it's a front row seat to the greatest show on earth kind of deal. And been fortunate enough through my career to where I can't believe I made money to do those things, man. I've been blessed beyond measure. And Brian's the same way. We have been super, super fortunate. But the reality is don't take it for granted. I've had my rough patches. We talked about some of that last night, and just know that look around that you can change it, guys. That's what I would say. You can absolutely change it, but it's going to take a hell of a lot more work than to sit back and just read the script and be
write a memo.
Yep. Yeah. Here it is. You got to tackle it, man. I told him, I said, when we go to do this, the way I describe it is trying to climb Mount Everest in your damn underwear. It's like, oh my God. And we have cussed and discussed it and been frustrated and, want to nuke off on stuff and be like, you know what? It's just double down. It's double down. Let's go back in there. And my deal is tie a knot in the end of the rope and get a hold of it and start pulling it and tell everybody to get a hold of it with you. And go forward and change it for your agency, whether it's 10 officers or 10,000 officers. You can. You can do things inside the firearms world to benefit your people without it having to be something administration-wise like it's a 180-degree turn. It's not be objective in your training, I guess would be the biggest thing. It's objective, measurable thing. Apply what you're doing in the way you're training to the reality of officer-involved shootings in this country. Okay, and if you can look at those two things and put them side by side and say, what we're doing on the training deck is as close as we can get to mimic the reality of these things. Because I'm looking at the sites on Instagram.
Right.
We all get them.
Yep.
There's tons of videos there. Okay, well, what's happening? We're part of a group text thread, and we talked about that, where there's a lot of the guys that you've talked to and friends with and everything. There are guys out there across the nation. There are resources there that are pushing it, that are doing it, and guys are kicking ass and taking names, man.
Yeah, I hear about it too. I'm fortunate to be even considered in some of those circles just for the discussion piece. I don't know how I got there, but my point being is, I know there are, and I've had some of those people on the show, and there are other people from the outside that try to contribute to that, and that's the whole point of the podcast, is getting that message out to people and giving them some direction or some maybe some motivation, right? It's whatever it is for you, taken away. But there are absolutely people making changes.
Yes.
It doesn't have to stay the way it is, right? Yeah, but it takes energy, and it takes a lot of work.
It does take a lot of work and a lot of energy and a lot of networking too, because we don't have all the answers. We don't claim to, right? But being a part of this text thread of officers from all over the country, literally coast to coast, right? That was put together. Of course, there's the memes and the shit talking, and it's some of that stuff is.
Is it possible to not have
some
that?
Are way better at that than others. There's a few guys you don't want to fuck with it, man. Don't do it.
I won't even mention his name because there will be a meme on my phone in about 40 seconds of me doing something I never did in my life. I promise, right? But and then there's times where it's like, we'll be in the middle of teaching a class and I'll pick my phone up and I'll have like 47 text messages. Yeah. But it's somebody started a conversation or had a question about, hey, how do I transition from this to that? And how do I move? Or how are you guys doing this with your recruits? Or how are you guys doing this when you're training? And it's just now we're kicking ideas off of each other and trying things and videotaping each other, running drills. And like, we'll post a drill and then other guys will go and post themselves doing it. And then like, we'll tweak it off of that. Right. And so like to have that network of people to where you can bounce these ideas off of and from different parts of the country, right, is huge.
Yeah, I think people feel like they're on an island a lot, by themselves, and they don't have to be. That takes work to not be on that island. Like you got to want to get yourself off of it. You got to put some effort into it. I just, from my personal experience, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't doing that. And who the fuck am I? Like I had questions and I saw smart conversations happen. I went out and I looked for it. Right. And then I just started reaching out, and some of those conversations went well. Some of them maybe not so well. I just moved on to the next one, and I took what I could, and ultimately that thing starts to cycle around. And I think the question people would have that are listening, like, well, how did I get inside that circle, man? Like I'm running the firearms program over here at this agency, man, and nobody thinks like me. I'm different. Like, where do they go?
Well, they feel like they're on an island because departments are very, very, departments, I should say, are very siloed. Mm-hmm. They're very, very siloed. And training inside departments is very siloed. We're guilty of that in our department. I think we were. I said much more in the past.
Well, it's set up that way.
Sure, right, because you have, and different units have a different level of latitude to do certain things based on skill set, equipment, and stuff like that.
It's not the same everywhere, yeah.
Right. And however, but the skill of, go back to firearms, the skill of shooting is not siloed. Everybody carries the same gun for all intents and purposes. Right. Let's be real. There's nothing keeping you from having all of the skill you can possibly have with that. And access to the training it's not a matter of, okay, well, the SWAT guys are the only ones that get to do that.
There's so much free information out there, man.
It's all out there. Yeah. It's all. Like what we teach the recruits whenever, like, we're teaching, tomorrow and Sunday.
It's not proprietary.
No, the recruits get the same. We're taking the brand new, the FNGs.
Right.
And we're saying, come on. Let's go from day one. It's not, well, you're not privy to that information because there's nothing about this shit that's advanced, man. It's just people that worked at it and they can stack skills and do the things really, really quick, the fundamental stuff. That's why they look like they're, it's nuts, man. Right. What's possible.
Right. I think one of the biggest hurdles, too, that we've seen is guys wanting to progress the training, but their SOPs or general orders or whatever prevents them from doing that, right? They have some policy in place that literally hamstrings them. And we talk about the difference between range rules and safety rules, right? Those are two totally different things. Yep. Two totally different things. Like, and so like when we're demoing, for example, we've talked to guys and we've taught instructor schools where guys are having to teach back to us, and when they're doing their teach backs, like the class has to be like 5 yards behind them for safety, you know? Whereas like when I'm demoing or Chancey's demoing, we talk ourselves to, we'll have shooters up like right here, like, because I want you to watch the gun. Like the target will be the target. You can turn and look at it when I'm done talking and shooting, but I want you to watch a gun. And we've had guys like, "Ooh, man,
we can't do that." Yeah.
Well, hold on a second.
Hair stands up on the back of their neck. Yeah.
And nobody can go forward to this yard line because that's where you're shooting. Like how that is hamstringing them, right? Because how do you really truly teach somebody
if they can't see what's going on?
If they can't see what's going on, right? And they don't have the freedom to move about the range with a gun out and run around and do practical stuff, because there's a lot of ranges where like there's no shooting and moving unless it's in a, everybody's on the same line and everybody's moving together, like the old Civil War freaking movie, like
Musk shit.
Yeah, like no, like that is not the case at all. And
yeah, I hear you, because I hear that too. Like we can't do that. And I've been on the range too where people freak out about stuff that to me was very normal, right? Because I didn't start in an academy situation where there were very, very strict rules. I had to learn that going to these things, going, wait, we can't do this or we can't do that. I didn't know the term a hot range until I found out there was such thing as running a not hot range. So as an example, so I get it. I understand.
The people that are anti those things I would argue, and this would probably cause a hair to fly on some people, but the people that don't do any kind of dynamic training, any kind of movement, any of those things, they're going
to be afraid.
They're going to be afraid, but it's because the people that are there in those positions, I would argue, are not capable of it.
That's good. Probably a good assessment.
And so, okay, increase your capability. That goes back to you working on you. Increase your capability.
Then you'll have the confidence to do that.
Damn straight.
Maybe change it.
And now can we safely implement this? Can we safely do this? Range rule versus safety rule stuff, right? I get it. We don't want anybody hurt. We don't want you to leave with any more holes than you showed up with. Don't point your gun at you. Don't point your gun at me or anybody else here. Gun handling's a thing. You work that in dry fire. We're cognizant of that all the time. That's got to be built in, no doubt. We're not foregoing safety in any way, shape, or form. That's not the point. But we have to take the setting that we're in, whether it's a dirt barn in the middle of a field or a state-of-the-art range. If there's a safe place to put bullets, okay, you can do the type of what we would argue is the correct type of training.
Yeah,
you can.
I think what you're saying is they just don't know how.
They don't.
They don't know.
Yeah, and whenever they realize that it doesn't take an elaborate setup. It doesn't. No. You can go buy a damn stack of paper plates from Walmart, man.
We've done it. We've done it. We've taught off balloons and paper plates before.
And people were like, "Well, we don't have any targets. We had to travel." We're like, "Okay, this is what we're going to do."
Yeah.
Yeah. And we got the whole damn class. Bust out some Sharpies, man. We're going to do it. Make it happen.
Guys, look, like I said, we could go on probably for 4 hours if I let this thing go there. I think people want to be a part of the club, and they're trying to find a way into it, and they recognize what their shortcomings are or where their deficiencies lie, and they want to do things. Sometimes they have a little bit of a tough time putting one foot in front of the other to get that stuff done, but there's so much frustration. And so what I've been recently searching for is like, who's winning out there, right? And who's done the hard work, and who's already done that work and tripped over stepped on their own dicks a few times in order to get there, that's learned lessons, that can give some advice. And that's why I wanted to sit down with you guys. And again, there's different situations for different people out there, but each time I have one of these conversations, there's a few like themes that come away with that. One is that this doesn't have to be overcomplicated. Nope. That we've overcomplicated the crap out of this.
2 + 2.
Yeah, 2 + 2. Yep. Secondly, that the training's been backwards, right? We need to inverse what we've been doing. And the easiest way to look at that is teach people how to run the gun, and the qual will be there.
Yeah.
Stop being worried about people failing the qual. That goes from the top in admin all the way down to the officer in the qual.
Build a shooter, not a qualifier.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And the reality of it being too is for law enforcement for everybody to wake up. Law enforcement's forever behind on everything. That's just the way it works. You know,
it's a slow-moving ship.
Yeah, absolutely. There were people back before we ever started this, you know, before we ever became police officers, 25, 30 years ago, that had optical sights on pistols. Mm-hmm. Okay. They had on the coach shorts and the tall tube socks with the stripes on them. Yep. And they are friggin' badasses with a gun.
Right. Like
the information has always been out there. That's what I find, is that it has always been out there. Whenever you look back, there are guys, they're the OGs of quote practical shooting, and they were incredible then. They have exceeded that now. When you look at the top guys, I mean, they would kick the living shit out of those dudes 25 years ago.
Yeah, that like same guy. They're themselves, you mean? Yeah.
And they're the top dude then versus the top dude now. We're not even speaking the same language, man.
And I don't continue to move that way, which is crazy to think about, right?
You know?
Yeah, what's coming is crazy.
Yeah, it's like, come on, people, get on board, because all the information's there. There are a tremendous amount of people out there, number of people, I should say, that are putting out very good information. There are some that, I mean, I personally don't agree with the way they go about it, and that's okay.
Yep.
It's a free country. There's enough for everybody to eat, man. Right. Like, let's go. If you're out there helping people, pushing the right way, and you can objectively step back and look at it, okay, now get out of the friggin' toilet paper tube, view of things, and say, okay, does this fit? Is this making cops better? Is this making them more capable? As long as they're willing to put in the work, that's the big caveat. That's the asterisk. To move forward, then yes. Then go forth and do it, man. Go seek that training. You want like red dot program. Standing that up. Tell me how many times run into the damn wall with that.
Oh, man. How long ago was that? I mean, when they really emerged on the scene, we go back 5 years and people were like, okay, maybe this thing is here now, right? There's still people fighting it. But
100%.
But at the same time, that percentage of people is very, very, very small because people pushed it.
Yeah, we did the dry fire class yesterday, and there was a couple of guys that had irons, and I'm like, man, and of course we were busting their balls, and like, damn, dude, y'all dudes are prehistoric. Like, what's to do? We need to pass the hat, get you a dot. Of course they were good sports about it, but red dot sight's the way, man. It just is.
Right.
You can be a purist all you want. I mean, tried it the first time, I don't know, give or take a little bit. And then I'm going to stick with my irons. I can shoot the irons good. And then I put the irons up and I went and ran a course, full class with the dot. And I hadn't looked back. Like it's a simpler process. It's the dot screams at you, where the dot, the way I described it in class and Brian busted my balls, the dot is a Metallica concert, man. Right? Okay. That's what it is. Okay. It's a Metallica concert. Iron sights are like George Strait. Okay, it's so much more. It's louder. It's all those things, but you have to learn how to interpret that stuff with what you need to see in relation to what you're trying to shoot. And we got to get on the gas, man.
Yeah.
Like we got to go.
Yeah. So again, like being part of the club, following along, trying to get to be able to experience this stuff. Like, where do people go? Like, here's the chance to pitch the business and the things that you guys are doing. And if for anybody else you want to plug, like, here's the time to do it, man. How they find out more about you guys? Yeah,
you can go to our website, reddisonsgroup.com. Anybody that's got any questions about anything, man, hit me up on Instagram, Brian_Reddisonsgroup. And I field questions all the time on there, guys that have come to our classes and hey, man, what was that drill or whatever? Or, hey, I got a question about this, or hey, how do I go about that? Or we want to give it all away, man. We want to give it all away. So don't feel like you can't be a part of the club. You just got to put in the work and ask, and we'll give it to you. We'll give you everything.
It's like I say, nothing is proprietary, and there's not a bit of this stuff that anybody came up with on their own. Right. As far as reaching out to me, man, I will. I'm here to answer any questions. It's Chancey _Reddison's group on Instagram. And we're I text, as far as text messages and stuff like that go, I'm not going to put my cell phone out here, but they reach out there and it's another cop, then I'd be happy to give you my my cell number, because I don't do we don't do social media, man. Right. Very little. We need to be better about that.
Yeah, we're horrible at social media.
I get it.
Or
old fashioned.
At it.
Yeah,
word of mouth. Let's go. Let's do it that way.
Future is now, boys.
Yeah, right.
We don't take pictures out on the range, man. We're too busy trying to teach and be engaged with the people, man. We're just taking selfies and shit, man.
I can appreciate that.
I got a face for radio, so bad these damn cameras are going. But man, we're fortunate, man. It's good, man. It's fun. It's mind numbing at times, and it is frustrating as hell at times. But at the end of the day, man, it's a good thing.
Yeah, well, I can tell, and I got that from you when I was able to get out there on the range and do that with you. It was palpable. It's no bullshit. It's what you're seeing and what you're hearing right now is the same thing that I get every time I engage with you. Yeah. And Brian, it's been the same. It's been super consistent, and something tells me that Chancey probably wouldn't put up with you if you were any different than the way you are.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Kind of thing. Yeah. So I appreciate that relationship, and kind of how you guys work together, both inside and outside the institution, law enforcement, who you're trying to help. I know I got 100% of Chancey, even with 34 other people, in the class, and Jamie, when he was there, making sure we just acknowledged the work that he was doing there. Like, it was all in the whole time. We got piss breaks and water breaks and stuff. That's not what you guys were doing. You're changing out targets, running around, making sure people are taken care of, having the on-the-side conversations, smoking and joking, as you would say, and making sure you're relatable to people and having a good time and sharing, personal stuff as well as professional stuff. So you're just dudes, right? At the end of the day, trying to do a good thing.
Jamie's great. Jamie actually did us a solid. I was unable to make that class for personal reasons, stuff that came up, but normally Chancey and I are always teaching together. And actually last TTPOA conference last year, my grandma passed away and I had to fly out Friday night. And Jamie's the dude that I trust, that Chancey trusts, that is totally on board with what we're doing and how we're doing things. And I called him up like, yo, I need a solid. Like, Chancey's got 20 dudes on Saturday and 20 dudes on Sunday, and I got to fly to California, and he's like, I'll be on the road in 20 minutes.
Right on.
You know, so that's the kind of people that we want, you know, those kind of people. Those are the people that we associate with, right? And we want to bring along with us and to help out, to be a part of.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys appreciating, you know, that stuff. Like, again, it's not a you thing. No. It's a team thing, and the giving back and the wanting to help and the feeding the hungry, and as well as those that may not be as hungry, you know, and hoping that they get there and staying patient with them. I get where that can be really frustrating when you're trying to juggle all the things you're trying to do in the profession and in life and things. But I have heard nothing but amazing things about you guys outside of here. You know, the recommendation was very strong from a very trusted resource. That goes a long way, I think, for a lot of people. So I just want to thank you guys for taking time out, letting the pause happen between the time we were supposed to do it last time and now, and giving me your energy and you know, your time.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. You can't get that back, and so that's important.
Well, I appreciate thank you. It's humbling to be asked to come here and you know, on this podcast and talk about this stuff that we're trying to pour our heart and soul into, and we don't take that lightly, because there's a whole lot of dudes that I know would love to sit in this seat and have this conversation with you. So, man, thank you for having us. And if there's ever anything that we can help you with, and give us a ring, we'll come running.
You're doing it. You've done it already. I mean, I just, like I said, I overdo this quite frequently, but I just can't thank you guys enough. So I know you guys got 2 busy days ahead of you, you know, but on the range, I know we got 2 classes back to back. There's 30 people per class or whatever it is. I know you guys sold out quick, real fast. That enrollment filled up real fast. No surprise, right? Yeah. And looks like you're going to have some decent weather, I hope. And
hopefully Mother Nature will hold up for us. So we're going to go give it hell.
A little different than last year. A little different than last year. And I'll look forward to getting out on the range again with you guys soon, maybe even this weekend.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.